Hello and welcome back to Artist to Artist. I'm your host, Henry Blackman, and this is where artists come to showcase. Today I've got a special artist by the name of Julie Tucker Demps. She's an impressionist artist, and I'm going to let her tell her story. Julie, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Julie, tell us a little bit about yourself and how this great art began to be processed.
Well, thank you again for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'm a native of New Orleans.
Okay.
I always wanted to be an artist.
Yes.
As a child, I drew constantly, and as I acquired my life as I got older, I just needed to fulfill this thing in me.
Absolutely.
And so at the age of 30,
Yes.
when life tends to open its door and you get a little peek at it,
Right.
I saw my future in a glimpse, and I didn't want art not to be in it.
Excellent.
And so I just started making changes in my life and lining myself up to attend the next semester of college at the community college in New Orleans, at Delgado Community College.
Okay.
I paid my tuition and I went to school.
Right.
Specifically for that. I had acquired college credits when I was in the Navy. I served a tour in the Navy prior
Okay.
to all of this.
All right, veteran.
High school, yes, I'm a veteran, went to a veteran of the United States Navy. Yeah. So having all that experience, I knew what I wanted to do in contrast to what I've already done.
Absolutely.
You know, I found every excuse not to be an artist by doing everything else under the sun.
Right.
Only to get to a point in my life where it's like, girl, you know you want to be an artist, so you just need to stop playing and do that. And I'm so glad that I did.
Fantastic. I was reading in your bio a few days ago, and there was an experience, a traumatic experience that happened that seemed to have inspired your, getting out there and being an artist. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that and what that felt like, what that experience was.
If I had to define, I can't say if it's one thing in particular. Then I can say a accumulation of every fear that I could possibly have in my life. It stopped with me not fulfilling this thing in me.
Right.
I was well in things that I acquired in jobs and professions and relationships with people and traveling the world through the Navy and so forth. I had done a lot of things before I turned 30, and I was very surprised because it was not in my future. I couldn't even swim.
Right.
But I taught myself in a matter of 2 weeks before I left for boot camp because I was going to do something different.
Yes.
And staying in New Orleans at the time was just not what I saw for myself. So if you just gotta learn how to swim,
right,
make it happen.
Make it happen.
And so I would say it was an accumulation of a lot of things and not having any definite direction, even though I knew I could do many things. I just didn't have a support system. I'm gonna be totally honest in that area of the passion. Because Mama was like, ain't no art coming through here, because that wasn't popular. The world says you'll be famous when you're dead, from an artist's perspective. They don't encourage you to be. Yeah,
absolutely.
And that kind of ticked me off,
right.
And even though I buried it and I spoke of it from time to time, I didn't pursue it.
Right.
And so it was always something there waiting to be acted upon by me, and it was a light. It was just always burning inside of me.
Right.
And it calmed down when I started going to school, when I focused and I made a decision. And honestly, it's been 26, 25 professionally, but closer to maybe 27 to 28 years since that time, but I haven't noticed. Because I've just been doing something I love, and growing and learning. So if it was a pain, if it was a one particular thing, I say thank you.
Yeah.
As the word says.
Right.
Because it fed that thing that I call my passion.
Yes.
And my peace.
Right.
Which is vitally important to me.
Absolutely.
Accepting my gift and knowing the source, I gave it back to God and promised that I would never, shame or do anything that I know my child could not see.
Right.
And so that's always been like that line in the sand for me. And how I acquired the genre of Impressionism only came through years of studying art history and studying art in itself and exposing myself to art, whereas prior to I visit no museums or anything like that.
Right.
It was just me and Bob Ross, you know.
Oh, Bob Ross,
Happy
yeah,
trees, you
that's
know?
right.
And so once I had the opportunity to do that inward, you know, evaluation and make that decision, and I got in the environment of an academic setting, and I was able to be introduced to museums and so
Yes.
forth. I saw Monet's gardens at the New Orleans Museum of Art in 1993, and it changed my breathing.
Changed everything.
It changed everything in me. I had to learn how to do that, bless God,
Right.
because it was so overwhelming. It was that thing that spoke to me.
Absolutely.
Realism, abstract, cubism, all forms of genre, but impressionism, my spirit leaped.
Yes.
I said, this is the thing I must do. Now, Monet being who Monet is, I did not know. I knew his name, but I did not know his history and his life and his story and the stories of the Impressionists and how they came up and the struggles they encountered.
They did.
Very similar.
They did.
Very similar. Like passion,
Right.
hungry even sometimes, homeless in some aspects, but committed to being better and not being conformed to what they call the what's typical in art. They were breaking ground in a new area of art, and they weren't well received, but they didn't stop.
That's right.
You know?
That word you used a few seconds ago, commitment. Tell us, what was that thing, and I know you're a spiritual person, very spiritual person. What was that thing that just really, you know, you woke up that night and it was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it.
I didn't want to die and not have lived my dream.
Yeah. Yeah,
In this lifetime, you live once.
that's right.
And if you really, truly are living your life, you have desires.
Absolutely.
And this was mine.
Right.
And I could go right now. I'm being totally honest. I could go right now, and I'm good.
Yes.
And I live out loud in front of my child. I only have one, my daughter. And through example, I want her to know that it's not going to always be comfortable.
Right.
It's not always going to be easy.
Right.
You may have help, you may not.
Right.
But you have to find something within yourself that says, I can do this
Right.
for me. It has nothing to do with anyone else.
Right.
It's a personal thing. And so that's my source. That's what keeps me consistently consistent.
Right.
I coined a phrase, anything you apply pressure to will break. I'm just determined to prove the devil wrong, to prove society wrong.
Right.
I'm going to get mine in the land of the living. I'm not going to be famous when I'm dead, and my art will be, spoken of without me telling you what it is and why I do what I do as an artist and why I express myself the way I do.
Fantastic. You've mentioned your daughter in your bio. Tell us just a little briefly about your daughter and
I'd love to.
her being an inspiration to you.
My daughter, from my marriage, her father, she's 30. She's the one thing I deliberately asked God for,
Yes.
to have that relationship with my daughter
Right.
in a lifetime, because I never really had a good one with my mother. So in some ways it was a makeup. In some ways I thought it may be a makeup, but in reality it's just my experience and her experience. One has absolutely nothing to do with the other. But I felt that by me being in her company, she could show me some things.
Yes.
And she has. She shared more than she realized. She can draw more proficiently than I can, as well as sing. She's a professional performer.
Yes.
She gets her singing from her father's side of the family. I can't sing, but their lineage goes all the way back to Motown. So yeah, she has a grandmother by the name of Louvain Demps, who was a member of the Andantes, and she's very well known in the music industry, and she's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, my goodness.
So yes, Louvain Demps is the grandmother to my daughter, Christina Ray. She performs under the name Christina Ray.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm
Yes.
very, very amazed by the fact that she can sing and she's mine.
Wow. Look
So
at
that's her dad. I can't do it. I cannot sing. But
That's all right.
She's
That's
amazing.
all right.
I'm very proud of her.
Well, Julie, we're going to take a break for a few moments, and when we come back, we're going to get a chance to see a lot of Julie's work. We'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back to Artist to Artist. We've been having a great conversation about art with artist Julie Tucker Demps. And at this time, she's going to take us through her gallery, and let's see what she's got. Take it over, Julie.
Thank you so much, Henry. Well, I again thank you for the opportunity to share my work, and I will briefly give you a brief description. I was recently in Greenville, South Carolina, within the last year. Spent approximately 6 months, and it inspired me to do a series entitled South Carolina Spring. And this is one of the last pieces I composed more recently in November in Greenville, South Carolina. So this piece is entitled Greenville, South Carolina, Series Number 5. This piece here is entitled Oil on Canvas. All my works are oils on canvas. I prefer oil to acrylic. I'm going to go really, really careful with this piece. It's entitled Lone Voyage. It was composed in February of 2015, and it was a piece that I know healed me during a great loss in my life at the time, in the transition of my baby brother. It is in my private collection. I can't seem to find a way to let it go, but it is an oil land seascape, I should say, depicting a vessel going out to sea in some rough waters. And what made this so moving for me is that being that he's my baby brother, this was the first time he was someplace that we weren't. And he was going ahead of us. And he was alone in my eyes. And so that thus equals the title, Lone Voyage. And in my faith in God, I know he's fine. I know he's fine.
Fantastic.
In my spirit, I produced a painting of my grandmother. It's entitled Mama. Even though she's my grandmother, I called her Mama because I was around her with my mother and my uncles, and they called her Mama, so I called her Mama. And this piece was composed in 2005, and unfortunately, she went on to be with the Lord in 2010. But this painting has blessed so many members of my family individually, and I'm thankful that I had the courage to compose it.
Wonderful piece.
Thank you so very much. I have also this passion with landscape and nature, and I have this image in my mind of little glimpses of things, little keyhole snapshots, and that's where my Hidden Beauty series comes from. This is a depiction of a landscape, a little sneak peek at some foliage and some color in the area of a forest scene. I had no inspiration. I had no composition I was working from individually, but just a natural creativity flowing freely. I was using a lot of new techniques, and so I was having a great time with some new brushes. And this is the results from my Hidden Beauty series. And we're going to move here to this seascape here. It's entitled High Tides. High Tides is a combination of energy, a combination of technique and impressionism, a test in me being able to compose a piece that shows motion and volume and energy at the same time, being able to allow the viewer to come inside and be a part of the piece. This is almost like a crevice in a seascape where you're closer to the water than you may have been otherwise. So I made you in the cave. I put you in the cave.
You did, and I'm looking at that use of texture, not just in that one, but the ones before. What does texture allow you to do when you're trying to convey your or get your main idea or main thing across? Because it's really strong.
Thank you. I've learned over the years that volume in your work gives you legitimacy and makes for a serious painter. I early on was very thin in my oil because I was broke all the time. And I was told that I painted in oil like watercolor. And that was not my goal. And I wanted to graduate and grow to a point where I didn't have to be afraid of usage in my paint. So it was sacrifice in buying larger tubes. And then stepping out and being able to know that the results would be the end of a long path of being able to grow artistically to a level to be considered masterful.
Yes.
It's not vanity, but it's a goal.
Absolutely.
It's a goal I've reached, and I did it on purpose. And that only came with me not holding myself back by resources or what I don't have or what I do have, but
Exactly.
just giving my very best to each one 100%.
Fantastic.
So thank you so very much. And it is a very powerful piece.
It is.
And I still can't believe I do have this. I go Urkel sometimes, did I do this?
I believe it.
Yes. And back to the works. I spent some time in Alaska in 2001.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to visit Alaska, and I spent about 3 months in Fairbanks, Alaska. And in my time there, I was able to walk around in the snow, and it was so beautiful.
Right.
It was just so breathtakingly beautiful to see land that had not been trodden by man and, in our way of doing things, but still see the nature at its original form. And I brought a lot of those memories back with me, and I've taken them to my canvas and to the studio. And honestly, everything I've ever created from that time is sold. Everything, some beautiful works of art. And back in 2000, it was before this technology,
yes.
and I had my my 38 millimeter, and I was still developing my photographs and so forth. And so I have so many reference photographs. I will never not have a subject matter.
Absolutely.
Because of that volume of photographs from the old way of doing things. But at the same time, I said to say this, it was important for me to bring back as much of it as I could, but you can only do so much from a photograph.
Right. Right.
To convey what it is as an impression is that feeling, that transfer. I had to learn the technique enough to be confident that I could convey what it is I was trying to do.
And isn't that how the Impressionists saw things? Isn't that how they painted?
Glimpse.
By seeing it, by being there?
Yes, it's more of an expression of just a glancing glimpse of what it is I'm trying to show you.
Right.
I'm not a realist. I don't desire to be a realist in my expression. Right. However, I have to know the techniques of composition and so forth. Absolutely. And perspective and those things of such. Yes. However, chewing the meat, spitting out the bone, knowing how much you need in your expression and your level of, your technique, and how it can benefit you and how it can make you a better artist.
Right.
That is, that was my goal. Not to reinvent the wheel, but to take where I was trying to go with it and do my trip, go on my trip,
Absolutely.
And enjoy it.
Right,
most
enjoy
definitely.
it. That's important.
So at the same time, I'd also like to show, this is a very strong piece.
It is.
It is.
The colors are phenomenal.
It is a depiction from Paul Cézanne.
Yes.
I studied his work.
I've heard of him.
Yes, yes, yes. The Impressionist, Paul Cézanne,
yes.
Post-Impressionism. He studied, his theory was using pure color to build up an image instead of drawing it. He would make the image with the colors.
Right.
And give you that impression of that image. The apples were formed, not by me drawing them, but by me making those reds and greens and light shades of yellows and greens perspectively correct, also where they complemented one another and also shaped and brought the image to fruition.
Wow.
It was fun to learn another way of building up a painting without actually going to the canvas with a surface or drawing something, but also knowing that color and theory can be used to develop a composition.
Right, right.
Pure color and knowledge of what complements, what makes another color stronger, what to place next to one another. It's a dance.
Exactly.
It was a dance, and I so enjoyed. I was scared to mess with Cézanne too. I mean, to step up to a plate and to go against a master and say, I can try to do this, it was very challenging, but I'm glad I did it.
And Julie, isn't that what brings you to the next level?
Always. Always. Your admiration for an artist and someone who inspires you, the only next step is to go to that level of, not comparison.
Yes.
A pianist, you have to play Bach.
Right.
You have to try Mozart. You have to.
Right.
I implore you to challenge yourself in that area. If it's just you, yourself, and your eye in the studio, who's to know? You will know that you stepped up to that plate, and if you didn't get it on the first time, see, we back to me being broke all the time. So I didn't do this twice. I didn't do a theory sketch or you go down.
Just let it happen.
You go down. Just jump in head first. And so yeah, and I can live with that. I can live with that. It was a beautiful, and I got the lesson out of it.
Yes.
And it changed my work. It changed how I perform.
Fantastic.
Again, we're going to go higher here. This piece goes back to 1998, and I'm going to go very, very slow with this piece.
Take your time.
It's a part 2 in a series called The Tribe. The first piece was a depiction of the hands of God reaching for the children of Israel. 10 blackface depicting the 12 tribes of Israel. And it was a blessing, and it sold, and it did really wonderful. The Spirit was leading me to do a dedication to the wives.
Yes.
And I was like, Father, okay, give me this vision. And in that time, I was freehand sketching on newsprint.
Okay.
And then before I went to the canvas, I had a drawing down. It was like a storyboard.
Right.
I had it all down, colors, everything. And so then I went to the canvas. I did it the hard way. But anyway, I used the blackface technique because I was in the company of one of my dear friends and fellow artists by the name of Margaret Warfield. Margaret used blackface in my day. When I came up, she was using it, and I was implored to use it because I didn't want to get caught up in facial features. I just wanted to tell the story of Joseph marrying his bride, and that is the story of the wedding day. The story of the 12 tribes is the sons of Jacob. Okay, and these are their wives. This is Dan's wife. This is Levi's wife, and Joseph's fiance, being the daughter of the high priest, after he had found favor in the eyes of the Pharaoh, he was awarded with a wife, if the story is correct to my understanding. And this is her being adorned on her wedding day. So she's being prepared to marry Joseph.
Fantastic.
And it's entitled The Wedding Day.
You know, I'm looking at those colors. Are any of the colors in those pieces significant?
If they are, it is spiritually.
All right.
I'm being honest with you because it was nothing I looked at. It's
just flow.
Each woman, at one point or a time, I'd been each one of them. Each stance, it was important for each one to have their own individuality, and they stand individually. They have their personality. I see them individually, and they were created to signify the unity of the spirit of God's children and his original children.
Yes.
And then the support that they come together as we all should come together for one another, but to celebrate a beautiful thing in the area of a marriage and a wedding. That was destined.
Fantastic.
You know? But thank you.
Very powerful piece.
Thank you. And on to the last 2 pieces here. This large piece is 18 by 24, is entitled Pleasant Afternoon. If I may step this way, I would like to show you an opportunity to show you that this piece has a lot of volume as well.
Yes, it does.
It has a great deal of volume. And this was one of those pieces that I was determined to birth out of nothing but an idea and a concept. I'm in Greenville. I'm sitting around watching the trees and watching the rabbits and so forth, and just peeking through. Every now and then I get a glimpse.
Yes.
And I had a pleasant afternoon when I created this piece. I took an abstract approach to it, and then I brought it into Impressionism. So I used several different techniques to bring it to fruition. But it really appreciated and brought to a final round in sales in Greenville, South Carolina, when it was selected in a citywide art auction. It was possibly to be bought by a land development company. So it got a lot of exposure at an early. Yeah, it was very surprising. It was great to get to the last round at least. It was great.
Right.
But evidently it didn't sell because I still have it. Anyway.
That's all right.
Anyway, this is the final piece in my series. It's entitled High Tides as well. Rolling Tides. Rolling Tides. This is Demps doing what Demps loves, which is appreciating water, even though I can't live in it independently on my own. Being from New Orleans, I've always found myself at the lakefront. Lake Pontchartrain, the one that flooded New Orleans. Uncountable hours just sitting and appreciating the ocean. So I'm guaranteed through my entire career to randomly produce an ocean scene, but it will be powerful. It will be motion, energy, and force, and it will be purposeful to make impact. So I can do calmness, and I have done calmness in my seascapes, but I don't know, some people reflect and use water as an expression of what they may be going through, you know. And I say, I'm that rock in the middle of this ocean, in the middle of this turmoil. If it's coming at me, then I will be beat upon, but I will survive.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
And I think that's about it.
It is.
Yeah.
Powerful, powerful gallery.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Julie, and we'll be right back.